Of our review of Act 4 of King Lear. Just looking through the key moments in the act before I began to record. It's just amazing, I have to say. I've said it to you many times that King Lear is my favourite book. I read a lot. It's my favourite book, and you know, I can see why when you look at this particular act. Anyway, you don't care about that. Let's get going. Remember, what the purpose of these little commentaries is just to remind you, refresh your knowledge of the play, but then really to focus in on key quotes and key moments that would be very useful when looking at or preparing to answer questions. At the beginning of the last video, I said I was going to try and keep it short and then try to look at a question. I failed. I think I kept it short enough, but I overran time on the commentary and didn't look at the question. So what I'll probably do now is try and get most of this act done in this video in about 20 minutes. And of course you can listen to 10, then come back and listen to another 10. Then maybe we'll talk about, you know, how particular quotes from this act that we're going to look at today might be useful in terms of your preparation and how they could be used to answer questions from past exams. Okay, so again, this is a condensed version of Act 4, not every line, because we don't need to do that. So I want to begin by looking at scene 4, and this is, you know, the momentous return of Cordelia, okay? So Cordelia, don't forget, is the personification of virtue in the play. We don't want to use the word goodness, because goodness, you know, in my opinion, any word that ends with ness could be replaced with a better word, okay? So goodness is a little bit rudimentary or basic in terms of language. So virtue, honour, decency, nobility, these are words that we like to use to associate with Cordelia. Now don't forget, at the beginning of the play, I know you won't forget, but she's been really mistreated by her father, okay? And she would be well within her rights to be resentful of him, but no, because she represents the best of us, she represents, you know, how noble and honourable and forgiving we are capable of being. She forgives him, and she comes back all the way from France with an army. Her husband has to return to France because there's urgent business, so she's left in charge of the army, and she desperately wants to help her father. So if there's a quote from Cordelia that I love, it's this one: "All blessed secrets, all you unpublished virtues of the earth, spring with my tears, be aidant and remediate in the good man's distress." She then gives this order to her soldiers: seek for him, lest his ungoverned rage dissolve the life that wants the means to lead it. So there's really interesting things going on in that quote, okay? So first of all, we have this very deliberate, I mean, Shakespeare was living in Protestant England, you know, and sometimes I think, you know, was he taking a gamble? Because that's a very deliberate kind of, you know, saint-like portrayal of Cordelia. And of course, the worship of saints or the belief in saints was frowned upon greatly by the Protestant Reformation. It was something that was seen to be superstitious and irreligious. But this idea of her, you know, being somehow like a saint in connection with nature or connected to nature or able to harness the power of nature to help her father. It's beautiful, it really is fantastic. But look, all you got to do, and this image of her, you know, almost her tears germinating mercy, you know, that mercy will grow from the earth because of her tears. And, you know, it's interesting because there we have again suffering leading to, you know, redemption. Lear suffers, and through suffering becomes a better man. Gloucester suffers, and through suffering becomes a better man. Edgar suffers, and through suffering becomes a better man. Cordelia suffers, but her suffering isn't for herself. She doesn't become a better person. She's already a good person, but her suffering results in her father's redemption. So that idea of redemption through suffering is definitely something worth considering when we're looking at the play. But anyway, look, what we're really interested in is this quote here. If you're revising this scene or this act, learn, be aidant and remediate in the good man's distress. To aid is to help, to remedy is to fix or to repair. The most interesting thing is her description of her father as the good man. She's worried about her dad. She wants to aid him. She wants to remedy him. She wants to help him. She wants to bring him back to good health, and she calls him a good man. And the reason that's interesting is because it gives an insight into just what a, almost unbelievably good person Cordelia is. When I say almost, she is, to me, a bitter old cynical fella like me. She actually is, unbelievably good, because he wasn't good to her. He was cruel to her. He was a bully. He was unreasonable. He was outlandish in his treatment of her. He disowned her, down my sometime daughter. But here, first time we see her since that scene when she was banished and he tried to ruin her life before Fran stepped in, and she calls him a good man. So very, very important moment. The next scene, again, it's not a scene a lot of people know about, but I like it. It's a very brief scene. I've only taken one bit out of it. I like it because it's Regan. I was looking at a question recently with a class about how in King Lear, the villainous characters receive justice. And I was talking about, like, who would you pick? Who would you pick for a villainous character? Obviously, you pick Cornwall. He rips the eyeballs out of, Gloucester's face. And does he receive justice? Well, yeah, because his servant steps in and challenges him, and he dies as a result of that intervention. So there's an element of justice. We know at the end of the play, Regan and Goneril they both die, so they don't get a happy ending. So you can see that as being just. We know what happens with Edmund as well. But what I really like about this scene is that it pinpoints the corruption in Regan's character. Regan, for me, is really quite a troubling character. She doesn't have that big a role, but when she is on stage, she's given some really fantastic lines. In Act 2, Scene 4, it's Regan who says, "I pray you, Father, being weak seems so." Know your place. Deliberately designed those words, engineered to humiliate her father. It's Regan who encourages her husband to not only pull out Gloucester's eye, but then she says that one side will mock the other, and she encourages him to blind him completely. It's Regan who kills the servant who challenges and fights Cornwall. Like, she is a wicked and corrupt human being. But I think this moment is a moment which really exemplifies that part of her character, and it's a moment that very few people are aware of. She says, it's the last part I want to talk about here. We'll come to the first part in a moment. But she tells Oswald, who is, don't forget, Goneril's servant, and is acting as an intermediary between Goneril and Regan. She tells Oswald, "If you do chance to hear of that blind traitor, preferment falls on him that cuts him off." Now that's, to use kind of modern kind of criminal parlance, that's her taking a hit out on Gloucester. Gloucester, this old man, he's lost everything. He's been the victim of a terrible torture. She already stuck the knife into him by telling him that it was Edmund who betrayed him. She has cast him out, to suffer. He's homeless. He's despairing. But now she's saying to Oswald, "Look, by the way, if you see that old man, murder him, kill him, and not only if you do that, you will receive preferment, which means reward." So it shows how ruthless she is. It shows you how, is it amoral or immoral? Do you know something, guys? I'm not getting into that, going down that rabbit hole with you. Is she amoral? Is she immoral? What she is corrupt. She lacks ethics. She lacks decency. She is symbolic of, or representative of the absence of morality. That's interesting. What's also interesting is that at the very moment that she appears to be so strong, like this queen who's ordering the murder or the killing of Gloucester, she's also, unbeknownst to herself, weak, because she says at the beginning of the speech, "Edmund and I have talked, and more convenient is he for my hand than for your ladies." Now, just remind you, who's she speaking to? She's speaking to Oswald. Who's Oswald's lady? Goneril. What does that mean? It means that he works for her. So Regan is saying, reminding Oswald that she believes that Edmund loves her and that he wants to marry her, not Goneril. Now again, Goneril's already married, but we've seen previously in this scene that, in this act, that there's an affair going on between Edmund and Regan, or Edmund and Goneril. And what Regan suspects is that affair is going on, but Regan seems to be in thrall of Edmund. She seems to really, be fascinated by him. She seems to really want to be with him. And it kind of shows how, despite the fact that she is strong, she is also weak, because that affection that she has for Edmund is exploited by him. And I already talked about that in the little video commentary that we did on Act 5, how Edmund, enjoys the fact that he has won the affection of these sisters and will exploit them because what he wants is their power. Little scene. Then Act 4, Scene 6, again, very, very interesting. It begins with Gloucester, despairing, wanting to die, trying to commit suicide. We know that scene doesn't really work. Sorry, Shakespeare, man, I love you, but that scene doesn't really work. It's, where Gloucester thinks he's on the edge of the cliffs of Dover. But the fact is, he is driven to utter despair. And the fact is that Edgar does save his life by telling him that he is close to the cliffs when he's not close to the cliffs. And there is this wonderful moment of dramatic irony when just before he falls forward, not knowing that the peasant who's brought him to the place that he believes to be the cliffs of Dover is actually Edgar. His last words before he thinks he's going to die are, "If Edgar live, oh bless him, now fellow, fare thee well." And he attempts to commit suicide. So his last words are for the son he wronged. Again, indicating that while Gloucester may have been an insensitive, boorish, impetuous, rash, foolish man who abused his power as a father at the beginning of the play, he is, by this stage of the play, transformed by his suffering, transformed by the moral choices he made in support of Lear, aware of what he did wrong, and regretful and racked by a guilty conscience because of the way he treated his son Edgar. So very interesting. Because he doesn't die, because he's not at the cliffs, and he says, okay, well, I'll endure my suffering. At that point, Lear comes in, and don't forget the symbolism. If they ask about symbolism, it doesn't have to be a quote. The symbolism of the stage instruction that Lear is dressed fantastically with wildflowers wearing a kind of a crown or a mantle of wildflowers is indicative of, to an Elizabethan Jacobean audience, to a Shakespearean audience, is indicative of madness, or the loss of mental acuity, the inability to think rationally or reasonably, madness. And when Edgar sees Lear, he says, "Oh, thou side-piercing sight." It's amazing, lovely. Shakespeare's great. His language is so brilliant. So it can be so ornate and so poetic and so, complex, and that's rewarding in its own right. But it can also be just simple and direct. I love the compound word side-piercing. That word piercing, if somebody, there's a sense there of being stabbed in the side, and that's an image of immediate and extensive and great pain. And this is what Edgar feels when he sees Lear, gone mad. Okay, now there's a couple of moments that we really want to see here. Now again, if you want evidence of Lear being mad, just listen to me here, right? Look, I'm out. Peace, this piece of toasted cheese will do it. There's my gauntlet. I'll prove it on a giant. Bring up the brown bills. Oh, well flown bird. It clout. You give the word. Okay, so this is the great man. This is God's chosen. This is the man who led the country for 60 years. This is him brought to a point of madness. Now, you'd never learn that. I wouldn't in a million years ask you to learn that. And I have to say, if they did ask an essay on madness in the play, I'd just look at whatever the other question is, because I think it's, for leaving cert in a closed book exam, it's a tough challenge to talk about madness in the play, okay? It's too narrow. But it's interesting just to see Lear's suffering. And what's interesting is Edgar's, I love, by the way, sweet marjoram as well. Oh my God, sweet, what a terrible, terrible, terrible sight, he says. But what's really interesting is that in Lear's madness, there is insight. And here we come. If you're going to prepare this play for your leaving cert, and you understand that probably the most important topic to prepare is Lear's character arc, and you need to show Lear's transformation and how he is brought to a point of realization, cleansed of his hubris by his suffering. This is the moment in Act 4, Scene 6. He describes himself as Goneril with a white beard. I love that line, Goneril with a white beard. In other words, he knows that while he has condemned his daughter Goneril, he's recognizing the fact that she's not that much different from him. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He's recognizing that she learned her cruelty from him. But then, of course, guys, learn this. They flattered me like a dog. Right? Now, again, if you just know that, my name is Paul and I'm happy with you. It's a lovely simile. It shows that he understands the words of love at the beginning of the play. I love you more than words can weigh the matter, and so on, were a lie and they were manipulating him. If you just knew that bit, I'd love, and told me I had white hairs in my beard before the black ones were there. And then this, you learn this. They told me I was everything. 'Tis a lie. I am not ague-proof. Now, I know you know that quote. But guys, if there's a top 5 quotes by King Lear to learn from the play, that's in the top 5, okay? And again, look at the language. It's monosyllabic. They told me I was everything. 'Tis a lie. I am not ague-proof, okay? What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 words, and only 2 of them have more than 1 syllable. Monosyllabic, direct, insightful language. Remember what I told you ague means? Ague is disease. If you're not ague-proof, well, then that means that you are fallible. This is Lear's moment where he recognizes that he is fallible. He is no longer blinded by hubris. He no longer believes himself to be infallible. He is now aware that he is a vulnerable and weak human being. I love that quote. That's his moment of insight. And he also recognizes that once you are a powerful person, people lie to you. A dog's obeyed in office is an interesting line. Then he says, get thee glass eyes, and like a scurvy politician, seem to see the things thou does not. You know, there's a criticism of politics. Again, not that interesting, really. I do like Edgar's comment that, you know, while Lear might be mad, there's reason in his madness. That doesn't mean, that's not like a reference to Hamlet. In Hamlet, a character called Polonius, says, though this be madness, yet there be method in it. And at that moment, he's kind of suspecting that maybe Hamlet's not really mad, that he's pretending to be mad. But here, what Edgar is saying, he's recognizing that in Lear's ravings, in the madness of his current state, there is also insight, there is also understanding. And of course, then Lear comes out with this amazing, amazing speech. When we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. This is a good block. It were a delicate stratagem to shoe a troop of horse with felt. I'll put it in proof, and then I'll have stolen upon these sons-in-laws, and then kill. You know, the madness married to the insight, the illogical married to the logical. But there, look, when we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. There's an image there of life being a tragedy. And from the beginning, from the moment that we are born, Lear understands that tragedy is inevitable. Now that's quite a bleak, if you were thinking about general vision and viewpoint, quite a bleak insight. Okay? Then we know Oswald tries to kill. Lear collapses. He's found by Cordelia's soldiers. He's taken away. Gloucester is left alone with Edgar, not knowing it's Edgar, of course. Oswald sees them, sees the opportunity to make money, a proclaimed prize most happy. He fights Edgar. Edgar kills him. Don't forget, in Shakespeare, somebody has to say, I'm dying before they die. And then Edgar finds this letter. And this is a crucial letter, a plot device that I would definitely refer to. Okay, I'll rephrase that. That you could definitely refer to if you're writing an essay about the modern appeal of the play. You know, letters play a role in this play. At the beginning of the play, Edmund uses a forged letter in order to undo his brother and bring his brother to the point where he is cast out by his father. At the end of the play, and this is a lovely circular structure, Edmund uses that letter. Edgar uses a real letter written, a correspondence between Edmund and Goneril, and he uses that to bring his brother down. So there's a sense of natural justice there, okay? Anyway, the letter, you know what's in it. It's that letter from Goneril saying, like, I love you, I love you, I love you, help me kill my husband. And he says, a plot upon her virtuous husband's life and the exchange my brother. So there's Edmund realising that they're planning to kill Albany. And he says, right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to strike the site of the death practice duke with this paper. I'm going to show this paper to the man that they hope to kill, Albany. And of course, that's evidence of Shakespeare's plotting, of Shakespeare's ability to tie the different parts of the story together, because he knows how he wants the story to end. It can't come out of nowhere, so he builds up to it there. Finally, I'm not sure how long this is, but finally, again, if you're preparing Lear, the character of Lear, also if you're preparing this play at all, stop banging the table because it sounds bad when it's recorded. I get excited and I bang the table. Sorry. You have to study this scene. Okay? So it's not one of my 5 key scenes because there's too many. But this moment of reconciliation between Lear and Cordelia is vital to our understanding of the play. First of all, Cordelia reconciles with Kent. She sees Kent, and we realise that Kent has been working to protect Lear all along. "O thou good Kent, how shall I live and work to match thy goodness? My life will be too short and every measure fail me." I love that. Cordelia, she's so sincere. She's like, "Oh my God, Kent, how will I ever pay you back for all you've done? Sticking by my father after all he did to you and being loyal to him and protecting him." And of course, Kent doesn't want payment because what he says is to be acknowledged is overpaid. All my reports go with the modest truth, no more nor clip. But so, and that word modest is so important that Kent says that word because that's what he is. He is modest. He doesn't see his extraordinary service to Lear as anything special. He sees it as his duty. Okay? And then Cordelia is brought in to see Lear. She sees him, and this is very, very, very important. Again, are you going to learn all 4 of these lines? Probably not. Don't forget, it's the symbolism of the kiss that matters. This kiss is the most important thing. Would I love you to learn this quote? I would, but I'm a realist. "Oh, my dear father, restoration hang thy medicine on my lips, and let this kiss repair those violent harms that my 2 sisters have in thy reverence made." Don't forget, at this moment, Lear is asleep or he's unconscious. And is this, again, saint-like association with Cordelia? You know the idea that Jesus in the New Testament could, with his touch, cure leprosy or cure physical illness, that saints do that, the idea that saints are possessed of divine miraculous power to cure illness. Well, here's Cordelia leaning down to kiss her father and praying that kiss will repair the harms that her sisters have caused Lear to suffer. She says, "Mine enemy's dog, though he had bit me, should have stood that night against my fire." Great quote for any comment on loyalty. She says, you don't, what did they do? He's their father. He's their father. Even a dog that bit you, you wouldn't put a dog out into that storm. And they put their father out into that storm. Or at least if he went out into that storm, they made no attempt to help him, made no attempt to alleviate his suffering. So there's really the only time in the play where you see kind of spiky, angry Cordelia, outraged by the treatment that her father received from her sisters. And then Lear wakes up, and folks, there are lines in the play. I said there's 5 quotes that you really need to know from Lear. This is again one of them. It's amazing. He looks at her. He thinks he's dead. "You do me wrong to take me out of the grave." He says, "Oh, I thought it was..." Because, of course, for him, death will be sweet release from his suffering. "Thou art a soul in bliss." And then he says, "But I am bound upon a wheel of fire that mine own tears do scald like molten lead." And, I want to clap that because it's just like Shakespeare, I love you. It's to be bound upon a wheel. There's this medieval torture that was used, and it was used actually during the 16th century, during the Reformation, and some of the unbelievable brutality that went on, especially in Germany during the wars of religion, to break somebody on the wheel. So they would literally tie a person to the wheel of a cart and then break them. And that means take a metal bar and break their bones. Break every bone in their body to be broken upon the wheel. But here's Lear, bound to the wheel, but it's a wheel of fire and he's being burnt. So what's that an image of? It's an image of unbelievable suffering, and it humanizes Lear. It makes us feel sorry for him. The suffering he feels is not physical. He's not being burnt, but it's emotional and psychological. Who will cure him of that pain? His loving daughter Cordelia. The moment of reconciliation comes when he realizes who she is. She kneels down in front of him. "Oh, look upon me, sir, and hold your hands in benediction over me." He then gets down to kneel in front of her. Now, transformation. "No, sir, you must not kneel." He gets down and bends his knee in front of her. The great Lear, who was outraged at the beginning of the play by her failure to dance for him, to perform for him, to do what he wanted to do, to tell him how much she loved him. Here now, he is humiliated by her goodness. He understands that she's the superior being and he's the inferior being. And it's her, I said goodness, didn't I? Her virtue, her nobility, her fundamental innate sense of honour. And he tells her, "Look, I know what I am. I am a very foolish, fond old man, 80 and upward." And that is the quote that shows Lear's humility. Humility at the beginning. Don't forget the beginning of the play. It's hubris. Hubris. Narcissism, vanity, pride, that sense of being in love with himself and self-importance, pomposity, the arrogance that blinded him to the truth. Now he has been cleansed of that hubris and he is now humble. And the correct term to describe a state of being humble is humility. He's an old man. He's been foolish. Fond means he's referencing his struggles with his mind, his inability to make sense of the world. And he tells us what age he is, 80 and upward. Finally, Lear's transformation is clear when he tells Cordelia, "If you have poison for me, I will drink it." I just love it. He's so penitent. He's so aware of how wrong he did. "I know you do not love me, for your sisters have, as I do remember, done me wrong. You have some cause, they have not." He's still got that fight in him. he's not saying, "Oh, I was wrong to everybody by, even Goneril and Regan." No, he's still angry with them, but he's absolutely, in awe of his daughter Cordelia. He's filled with a sense of gratitude, and he says, "Look, if you want me to, I'll tell you how sorry I am. If you want me to die, I'll die." So that's just the magic, and I'm conscious of time, and I know people don't watch all these videos all the way through anyway, so I'm going to just talk for a moment about how some of that material might be used when answering questions. Now, you all have this document, and if you don't, you have past papers, you have the internet, you have examinations.ie. Let's just spin the wheel. Will we pick a question? Right, where are we end up? Here, 2006. In the play King Lear, the stories of Gloucester and Lear mirror each other in interesting ways. Very, very easy question. What could you use from that scene that we've just looked at there? Well, we've seen Gloucester and his great regrets at the way he treated Edgar and his willingness to die, because of to end his suffering, but also because of the shame he feels for his son. And there's Lear saying, "Look, if you have poison for me, I will drink it." And the way he treated Cordelia, he feels great regret for that. Very, very, very easy to talk about. That's a ridiculously easy question. The only problem with that question would be that structuring it. Like, you're going to write if you're going to write a King Lear essay, you want a very brief opening, maybe open with a quote that shows you know your stuff. You've got 4 or 5 weeks of the exam, get your quotes learned. Come on. You have all the quotes in the documents. Start preparing your quotes. But if you look at that, you're obviously going to write a paragraph on Lear's treatment of his children at the beginning of the play. You're going to write a paragraph on Gloucester's treatment of his children at the beginning of the play. You're going to look at Lear's great suffering, and how it transformed him. You're going to look at Gloucester's great suffering and his suffering at the hands of his children and his own folly, and Gloucester's suffering at the hands of his son Edmund and his own folly, and then the transformation in each character brought about by that suffering. There's another couple of paragraphs, and then how they both died tragically. There's another couple of paragraphs, and there's the essay. But that's a long essay, because by what I said there, you're talking about a very brief opening and maybe 8 paragraphs. You wouldn't write about them in the same. You go. Lear's treatment of his daughters, show that, and then next paragraph, like you're writing a comparative essay. Next paragraph, this is similar to Gloucester's treatment of his son Edgar. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So you're talking about 4 pairs of paragraphs to cover that properly. This year you have the time to do it because you've got loads of time in the exam. But in a normal year, that was conceptually an easy question, but structurally more challenging. Requires you to narrate the play. This is a much more interesting question. Shakespeare's play demonstrates the weakness of human judgment. Now you think about what we talked about there, Lear's awareness of, at the end of the play, when he tells her, your sisters did me wrong, you have not. If you have poison for me, I will drink it. Even Cordelia's, you could talk about Cordelia's decision to come home and help her father, and the outcome of that, which I think is very, very interesting. That was an Othello question. But you think about, from what we looked at there, Regan's trust in Edmund, big mistake. So her judgment isn't very good there. Sure, it's not. Throughout the play, you see people making mistakes. You see people exploiting. In the previous part of this commentary in Act 4, we talked about how Goneril thinks her husband Albany is a weak fool. Big mistake. He's a strong man. Oswald thinking he can just kill the peasant and then profit from killing Gloucester. Big mistake. Weak judgment. So many, many, many examples. And I much prefer questions like that, because questions like that don't require you to, no question requires you to narrate the play, but a question like that does result in storytelling answers. Lear does this, and then Gloucester does this, and then Lear does this, and this is how they mirror each other, and it's interesting because, whereas this one allows you to take a much more kind of episodic approach, if you like to reach in and start at the end of the play, maybe, I don't know, and talk about Goneril and Regan and their death and write a paragraph on their trust of Edmund, then go all the way to the front of the play and talk about Gloucester's trust of Edmund, and there would be a nice link through, and then you can link that through to Gloucester's not the only father who makes mistakes by trusting the wrong child, into Lear. It would result in a much more interesting structure and original essay. Okay, I'm going to finish now. I might do, if you let me know if you want me to do, I might do a little bit of a pick a question and show you how to write a couple of paragraphs in one of these later videos. Okay. Hope you found that useful.